Our next session will be the Executive Committee panel. We do this at each experience meeting, and we have a lot of fun with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, your XCOM, your MDRT Executive Committee, we operate as a team. And our goal is to make MDRT a better place for those who follow us. Today, we hope we can provide some ideas that have helped each of us become successful. Now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce each of my fellow Executive Committee members. First is MDRT's immediate past president, a 41-year MDRT member with 33 top-of-the-table qualifications. From Irvine, California, Guy E. Baker. Next, MDRT's secretary and a 32-year MDRT member with 3 quarter-of-the-table and 8 top-of-the-table qualifications. From Norfolk, Virginia, Mickey Hosley. Third is MDRT's second vice president and a 28-year MDRT member with 7 quarter-of-the-table and 1 top-of-the-table qualifications. From South Bend, Indiana, Scott Brennan. And finally, MDRT's first vice president and a 23-year MDRT member with 1 quarter-of-the-table and 13 top-of-the-table honors. From Methuen, Massachusetts, Jennifer A. Borslow.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Executive Committee. Are you fired up?
Ready to go.
You know, all 5 of us have different business models that we operate from. Guy, I'd like you to start off. Would you take a minute and tell us about your practice and what you do?
Well, my practice is built around what I call the 3 circles of wealth. Wealth accumulation, wealth succession, and wealth preservation, which is basically, retirement and investments, business transition planning, and estate planning. And so we have business units in each one of those 3 areas. I have 10 employees and a couple of partners, people that I work with, that are involved in each of those areas with me. And what we try and do is we try and bring to our clients the best ideas that we possibly can and integrate the planning all into one thing, one approach.
Yeah. Interesting. Mickey, how about you? I know that the work you do is a good bit different, and I know your model is different, and you've taken a lot of time to build it. Would you tell the audience about what you do?
Sure. There's just 3 of us in the office. I talked yesterday about Matt, so you know about him, and of course me. The 3rd person in our office is Martha. She's my assistant, and now our assistant, and she's been with me for 28 years. In our practice, we really specialize in 2 areas. We do investment management, and that's what I think Julian was referring to. I actually manage money with discretionary trading authority, which means I actually call all the trades. So it's a very unique business, and it's a fee-based business. And then the second area that we specialize in is retirement planning, which is great because that's what we're talking about today, so it's right in my area of expertise. The other thing about our setup is we selected office space in a Class A building, which means that we are actually in the World Trade Center, the nicest building in the financial district where I live. And our suite is one of the nicest suites. We spent a lot of money building it out. And the reason was, when clients come to see us, and almost all our clients come and see us in the office, we want them to have that initial impact that, oh my goodness, these people really know what they're doing. They're great. I want to work with them.
Scotty, how about you?
I've worked really hard to be small, freewheeling, and highly profitable. I've got an office, a very comfortable office, in a 100-year-old bank building that still has elevator operators. And when I meet people and they say, "What business are you in?" I say, "I'm in the life insurance business. I'll call you next Tuesday." It's been a great life. I have a part-time woman or two. Right now I have two, and sometimes I just have one. And I get up early and I run hard, and I'm home most nights by 6 o'clock. I live less than 10 minutes away from my office. I live in a big, small town, but it's been a great life.
Thanks, Scott. Jen, I know that, like Mickey, you feel very strong about the appearance of your office. However, your business operation is very different. Would you let us know how you do it?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We are in the employee benefits business, which means that we are dealing with companies and the company's employees. So our direct buyer, the person who's buying most of the insurance from us, is our CFOs, CEOs, and then we take it down to the level of employees. We are located outside of Boston, Massachusetts, in a suburban area, but we work in 3 different states, and so we have a very large footprint. Most of our work is done on referrals, and there are 4 salespeople in my office, and I am one of those individuals. So it is a great practice with 4 salespeople and then 24 support people that help us make a difference in the lives of our clients each and every day.
Thanks, Jen. Mickey, let me ask you, because one of the things we wanted to talk about today was retirement planning. What do you first talk about with your clients when they come in concerning their plans for retirement?
Okay, actually, let me back it up one step, because
Okay.
I think it's really twofold. It's how we prospect for them, because truthfully, isn't that the hardest thing, getting people to even talk to you? And then the step of once we actually get them at the table, what we say. So in our prospecting, we really do it 2 ways now. One is through referrals, and we get a lot of referrals, but not just from our clients. We get a lot of referrals from CPAs, from accountants, and we develop those relationships so that they know we're expert in that area, so they will send people to us. The other thing that we do is, because we have a lot of retirement plans that we handle for companies, we have, as part of our process and part of the value offering that we give companies, is we tell them that we will do individual counseling with each employee that would like us to. And so what we do is we set up days where Matt will go to these companies, and ahead of time people will sign up for half-an-hour time slots where they can meet with Matt. And he will meet, and everyone can have a half-an-hour time slot, and he fills the whole day and talks to people about not just the retirement plan that we have in the company, but all of their assets and all of their things. And then when he talks to someone who either has a really big problem or a lot of assets, then we invite them to come into the office, and then I get to come into the case. So it keeps him very busy, and it allows us to get to people. So then we get them in the office, right? So they've come in, they're sitting, we've got this round conference table, and what we do is we do a full financial plan, and we've got this in our office, we've got this glass wall, and we have a drop-down screen that comes down, and we project on there this retirement planning program we use, which is called Methuselah. And it's very visual. It's these pictures, bright colors of what their retirement is going to look like. And we sit there with them and we go through all the what ifs. Do you want to include your house? No, are you going to stay in your house? What do you want to do here? And as we make those changes, they immediately see the whole picture change. So they can see the impact of, if we say that investment's going to make 6%, how different it looks than if we say it's going to make 5%. And it's a really great thing. And there's no trying to get them to talk about retirement. Once they see that, they can't wait to do it.
Thank you, Mickey. Again, in Mickey's operation, what a wonderful use of technology that she uses. Jen, I wanted to ask you, I realize that in your business, retirement planning isn't really necessary, an integral part of what you all do. However, when you take a look at it on a holistic approach, I'm sure it does come into play. Would you comment on how, from your perspective and what you all do from your operation, how does that play a part in putting together your benefit plans that you do for clients?
Well, I think the most important thing that we do, and similar to what Mickey does, is that we ask a lot of questions. We take a full and comprehensive fact finder at the business level, and then we get down to the individual level, because we really want to understand what the individuals of that company are looking for. What we find is that for us to do our work properly, we need to look at the individuals, and we do meet with them one-on-one. We call that work site marketing, and a big part of my benefits business is built on meeting with the employees one-on-one, getting the employer to allow us to have 15 minutes. They don't usually allow the luxury of a half hour, but 15 minutes. And we focus on the life insurance and the risk-based products that might be weak at the employer site, but that they can purchase on a payroll deduction basis. And then we wrap that into their retirement plans. So we do take a very holistic view when we're with the clients, and we look to make sure that we can help the employees in their financial wellness, which is their long-term view of what's happening in their life, and that goes right into retirement planning. We do partner with an individual that comes in right behind us and does the retirement planning pieces. So what you'll see here with all of us is that we have different practices, but what we also do is we know when it's important to create strategic relationships with other advisors. And so we have a strategic relationship with another MDRT member who handles our retirement plans for our clients.
Just another way that being an MDRT member
Absolutely.
has assisted in the development of your business. Scotty, how about you?
It's fascinating. Old isn't old anymore. I've had a front row seat to a lot of really great people who elected not to retire. And I've had some that elected to retire and then go back to work. I've written life insurance on a garbage man, and I've written life insurance on the CEO of a Fortune 100 company in the United States. I've had a front row seat to some really interesting situations. I spoke to a group of university students in their last year of business school at a big college in my hometown. And I said, how many of you value your independence? And every hand went up in the room. And I said, how many of you think that will change when you're my age? Everyone wants to be independent. And I have watched and I have counseled people that if you own more life insurance during your retirement years, they'll be happier. And I think that's true.
Great perspective. Guy, I know your practice is, you've been in practice for many, many years, and I imagine that a good number of the clients that you're working with, they're not only, some of them still in the asset accumulation part of their life, but perhaps also in the distribution side. In your practice, because so much of it is investment management, can you tell us how you look at it and how do you incorporate that into what you do?
Well, my process is much like what you've heard here. I think if you understand process and you understand the importance of fact-finding, you're hearing that theme, throughout all of the comments. What I try and do is find, the key to the heart. find the way to be able to get the person to think about and talk about, what is most important to them. And so there's three things that in this area that I usually focus on. One is, what do you have, what do you need, and what's the gap? And so what we do is we fill the gap. And so it's just a matter then of figuring out what they have, what they need, and then what tools are going to make the most sense to fill that gap. And when I walk into a client, I don't have any preconceived notions. When I first came into the business, I was a size 10 shoe salesman. Everybody that had a size 10 foot was a good prospect. If they didn't have a size 10 foot, I was in trouble. The second thought is that everybody has an investment policy statement. Now, in the United States, it's required for all trusts, all fiduciaries, to have an investment policy statement. So that's a written way to be able to invest your money. And so if I ask somebody, what is your investment policy statement? Is it written down? Invariably, 99 and 9/10% of the time, they won't have a clue what I'm talking about. But yet they do have an investment policy statement because somebody's investing it some way. So our job then becomes to find out what their investment policy statement is. And then the third question that I love to ask, because it brings great quizzical looks on faces, is how much are you paying for your risk? And they have no idea what I'm talking about. But that's good, because then that starts down the whole conversation of, do you have the right asset allocation mix? Have you constructed your portfolio the right way? Is your portfolio going to be able to endure the ups and downs of the market to be able to get you to where you want to be? So those three tools are integrated into the overall process.
Great answers. When I started in the business, I would read about successful producers to find out what the secret to their success was. Scotty, what do you think has been, if you could name one thing, what do you think is the secret to your success?
Everything can be taken from a person except their attitude. And I want to be in the joy business. I make sure I'm in a good mood. You can't be depressed and thankful at the same time. In 2009, when financial markets were reeling, I started every appointment I had that year by saying, I know you've lost money, and I know business is lousy, but let's make an inventory of all the things you still cherish. You have a wife that you love, kids that you're proud of. You live in a house a king would have been happy to live in 100 years ago. You have a great brain. And I want to remind you of something. This is only temporary. Sometimes I know I'm the only good news that man or woman may hear all day, and I just want to make sure they hear it from me.
Good answer. Thank you, Scott. Jen, we heard certainly about how you started and your practice and how it developed, this morning when you gave your talk. But what do you think the one secret to your success has been over all this time?
I would have to say it's the relationships that I have developed. And it is not only the relationships, but it's the genuine caring and concern that I have for each and every client. If they're going to be a client of our agency, then I really care. I think that if you were ever to poll the 28 employees that we have in our office, they would all say the same thing, that we exude caring and genuine concern for our clients. We feel their pain when they've lost a loved one. We feel the pain when they may have moved out of the area and we can no longer service them. We had several clients during the tough 2009, 2010 that lost their businesses. They couldn't keep them. We felt their pain and they knew it. So for me, I would say my genuineness, along with the same attitude with the team that Scotty spoke about, has been the true part of our success. Because as I said earlier today, it really boils down to great relationships. And we are very fortunate to have many over the course of the 28 years I've been in business.
Great answer. Mickey, how about you?
Well, I think the secret is to find what you love to do and then find a way to make money doing it. I wish I could say that I'd figured that out early, but I didn't. It took me, I think it was about 25 years in the business before, and I'd heard a lot of great producers say that at the round table, and I'd hear it and I'd go, yeah, that's it, and I didn't do it. And then I got to the point where I just said, you know what? There's two things. If I did these two things, I would love to come into work every day. I could spend the whole day doing it. And that was investment management and retirement. So I made a decision. I was willing to make less money, not produce as much stuff, and just do the things I like to do. And only when I put new assets, my time or my money, would it go to those two areas. And I wish I could say that, you know, my production went way up. Well, it didn't at first. It stayed level for about 18 months, and then it just skyrocketed. And that's when I made top of the table for the first time, and I've made it every year since. Thanks.
Guy, how about you? I also know you've got a very interesting story about when you first joined MDRT, about how that impacted you as well. Would you go ahead and relate?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, I wasn't going to go there with that story. Well, first off, let me say that you've all heard it probably said, that nothing happens until somebody sells something. Okay, so if there is one secret to success in this business, it's putting yourself at bat. You know, you cannot hit a baseball unless you swing. So you've got to have enough activity. And when I first came into the business, the manager who recruited me into the business had one saying, and he said, "Activity breeds activity." And I said, "Well, that's nice, Ralph." And then, you know, I'd go running off, and then I'd come back to see him later in the afternoon, and instead of saying, "Guy, how are you? Did you have a good day?" and everything like that, he'd say, "Activity breeds activity." And so every time I saw Ralph, virtually the first thing he would ever say to me is, "Activity breeds activity." Now, I have to tell you, he and I have been together, he's just turned 77 a week or so ago, and so he now occupies an office in my office. And so when I see him every morning, I say, "Ralph, activity breeds activity." He's a lousy agent. But the story Julian's referring to is when I came to my first MDRT, I joined MDRT the very first year I was in the business full time. And I didn't go to the meeting. And then the next year I didn't go to the meeting. And then the next year I didn't go to the meeting. And then finally they put the meeting in my backyard. And so I had run out of excuses, so I went. And I went to the meeting, and, you know, it was huge. It was overwhelming, the number of people there. There had to be at least 1,500. It was just an unreasonable number of people. Of course, we have, 7,000, 8,000 today, something like that. Anyway, it was a great meeting. I learned so much. There were a number of instances that took place there, incidences that were fun. But when I walked away, I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel part of MDRT, and I vowed I was never coming back. Unless they put it in my backyard again.
We're glad you did.
So, as it turned out, I went to a CLU institute about 6 months later, and I met this young guy, and he was sitting in the back of the truck, and we're bouncing along, and he says, "Are you a member of the round table?" "Yeah." "Did you go to the meeting?" "Yeah." He says, "What did you think of the meeting?" "I'm not going back." He says, "Well, why don't we join a study group?" And so anyway, he kept pestering me, and finally he talked me into going to Boston. Well, he was president of the round table about 8 years ago, Gene Mon, 10 years ago. I don't know when it was, but anyway, so Gene and I became fast friends, and we put together the study group, and I kept coming every year after that. So it was, for me, it was the connection. It was the friendships. And I've asked so many members, why do you like MDRT? And I get two answers. One is, it changed my life. And the second one is because of the friendships, the relationships.
Terrific. Thanks. Here's a question I think all of us would like to hear the answers to. We have all been through slumps. How many people in here have been through slumps? Oh, no, wait a minute. Every hand should be going up. We have all been through slumps, right? Okay. When you go through a slump, you just can't seem to produce any new business, correct? All right. Guy, I'm going back to you. How do you motivate yourself to get out of a slump?
Well, of course, the art of getting out of a slump is not to have gotten into it. And so, the first thing you have to do, if you start to notice that things are not working quite the way they should be working, I always take a step back. I'm very analytical, so I look and I say, what have I been doing that, what did I used to do that I'm not doing now? What have I changed? And so the two things I usually do that will get me out of, well, three things that I do. One is to concentrate on a formula that I developed early in my career, which is two-a-days. And that's to get 2 people every day to talk to me about insurance sometime in the near future. And so when I get somebody, when I'm on that 2-a-day track, it doesn't count to just get a name. You actually have to talk to them and say, would you have any objection to talking to me about financial planning, insurance, retirement planning, whatever that is. So that's one thing that I have to make sure I'm doing on a regular basis. I cannot do that for a month and not see things turn around. And oftentimes it'll turn around quicker than that. The second thing is, maybe it's time to tweak my ideas a little bit, get more stimulated and excited about what I'm talking about. And so usually I have some set presentations that we then tweak depending on what the circumstances is. So I'll go back in and I'll redo those. So that gets me rejuvenated because I've got something new and fresh to talk about. And then the third thing that I do, which is probably the most important thing, is I start calling up people that like me. Now that's hard to do sometimes. Find somebody that actually likes me. But assuming I can find somebody, it reignites in me the reason why I'm in the business. It gets me back started again. And I can't talk to 3 or 4 people without getting some business. Something comes out of it. I just hear something on the phone and I say, well, why don't we get together and talk about this? Why don't we get together and talk about this? So whether it's a center of influence or one of my more valued clients, the A clients, those are the types of things that I do. So it's activity breeds what? Activity.
Great answer. Jen, now I realize there aren't too many slumps anymore because you're probably trying to find enough time in the day to go to the bathroom. But sure. When you were beginning and as you were building your practice, we all go through slumps. Sure. What did you do to get yourself out of it?
Well, very similar to Guy, you reach out to the people that are the most positive in your life. I have a group of roundtable friends that I would pick up the phone and call any time of the day or night. This same group of friends, when my dad passed away 2 years ago at Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving Day, left their homes on Thanksgiving and came to be with me the day after for the wake and the funeral. Those are the people I call when I'm in a slump. And the second set of people that I call is the clients that really I enjoy being with. Like Guy, go to people that give you positive energy and make you feel good about what we do or what you do. And you will come out of those meetings, call them and take them to lunch. For me, I might call and invite them out to play a round of golf. But what it does is it gets me energized to go back and do it all over again. So surround yourself with really positive people, whether they're fellow roundtable members or some of your really best clients. They will help you get out of the slump.
This is where MDRT's sharing and caring, getting involved, volunteering, this is the way you develop friendships. And this can become a very important support network for all of us.
Absolutely.
Scotty,
you don't have
in your
slumps, right?
in your long and storied past, what have you done? Because we've talked about it. Tell us some of the things that you've done that help you get out of a slump.
Years ago, in an afternoon session, at a roundtable meeting, they asked Dave Hilton, the late Dave Hilton, how do you get out of a slump? And I remember he said, I don't allow them. If you discipline yourself, and everyone in this room is disciplined, or you wouldn't be sitting here, but when you discipline yourself, others don't have to. I have found through the years great joy in work. I truly enjoy the work we do, the oddities, some of the tougher things that are involved in it. It all adds up. I can tolerate the bad days. I enjoy the good days. I've had a lot of lousy Monday mornings and a lot of great Friday nights. I just keep working. I had a wonderful holiday season this year. I worked all the way through it. We had a snowstorm. We had 3 feet of snow a month ago, and I worked through that. When people will see you, when others aren't calling, it's invigorating. When I do get down, I don't hide. There have been times where I will buy a case of champagne, I'll put it in my trunk, and I'll drive around to 12 people, and I'll stop in unannounced, and when the receptionist says, do you have an appointment? I say, no, this is a surprise. And I like being around upbeat people. It's impossible to be depressed if you're thankful. Hang around with people that are possibility thinkers.
Great idea. Great idea. Mickey, obviously it's different for everyone, but I know we've all been through it. How about you? What gets you out of a slump?
Okay, well, I'm going to take a big chance here. Because when I hear slump, it reminds me of, and you're going to also know how unsophisticated I am, but an author, which is Dr. Seuss, you know, the guy who writes the children's books. And one of the books that he wrote that I really love is Oh, the Places You'll Go. And he talks about getting out of slumps. And I'm going to try, and just help me out here. If anybody knows this and I go the wrong direction, help me, but I'm going to try to share a little bit of it with you. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your way up and you know what you know, and you are the one who will decide where you go. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You'll get all hung up in a prickly perch, and bump, you'll fall down and be left in a lurch. And when you're in a lurch, you're not in for much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done.
Hey. Very good.
You can see I had a great childhood that I can still do that. But you know what? I love the champagne idea. I do what Scotty does without the champagne. That's much better. They'd like to see me more.
I don't know. I kind of like Dr. Seuss myself.
Yeah. I get out of the office and I just drop in on clients. And I will say I'm a little more creative in what I say, because I say, I was in the area. Well, I was because I showed up. And I hadn't talked to you in a while. I just wanted to say hi. And of course, they invite you in to sit down. And of course, as Julian said, they always have something to talk about. But the champagne's a great idea.
So we've been doing all the talking here. Have you ever been in a slump, Julian?
Oh, you could say that. Probably a couple of hundred. What you're going to hear from me, you're going to hear a very common thread that you've heard throughout. I do what most of my fellow executive committee members do. When I'm in a slump, I go back, and you'll remember my terrific influential advisors talk where I lost it a little bit right before. But I go and I schedule meetings with my influential advisors when I'm in a slump. I schedule breakfasts and lunches. That way, in those weeks, I know I have 10 appointments. Okay? I can have 10 appointments that way. Why? It's what I said before. If I've developed the relationship correctly, then I've developed a friendship with someone. And you know what? Your friends always want to help you if you ask. And the other thing I would mention is we all have our best clients. Your best clients are best for a reason, and not just because they provide the financial reward for you. Your best clients are people that you really enjoy being with, and they like you. And you know what? If you go out and ask them for help, they will help you.
Thank you.
Many of you all have heard of Dan Sullivan, who's got an organization called the Strategic Coach. Dan Sullivan speaks about the importance of identifying what your unique ability is and how to use it to the best of your advantage. Jen, I know that you've spent a lot of time over the years honing this type of thinking. Would you let us know, now how did you discover your unique ability, and tell us the impact it's had on your career?
In 1995, I believe, Dan Sullivan spoke on the main platform in Dallas, and I was sitting at least 200 rows back in the middle with my friends watching the screen, and I actually thought he was speaking just to me. And he talked about unique ability. And unique ability is a concept where what others see in you as a superior ability that they truly value. It's something that energizes you. It's something that you're passionate about, and something that you work to get better and better all the time. I have spent years trying to figure out what my unique ability is. My business partner and I have worked very closely with Dan to determine what our unique ability is, and I can tell you without hesitation, my unique ability is connecting people. In the book, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about connectors, people who are instrumental in connecting one to another, maybe to an advisor, maybe to a resource, maybe to MDRT. And so I would say my ability is to connect clients and connect advisors and connect our members together. So my unique ability is really about relationships and connecting people.
Interesting. Just again, it's a common thread throughout all of your answers in terms of what's really important, and it's about building trust and about building relationships. Guy, how about you? What have you always thought as your unique ability? Or maybe you haven't thought about it yet.
Well, it's kind of hard to say I haven't thought about it. You know, what I've seen in the industry, and maybe you've seen it as well, there's basically three types of agents. Okay, there are the very analytical agents, the ones who know every code section, every law, dots every I, crosses every T. And then there's the people who are extremely relational. They can make friends with absolutely anybody. They can sit down, have a great conversation, eyeball to eyeball, connect. And then the third type of agent is the one that's both. That's technical and relational. And what I've found is that at the top of the table, the ones who are most consistent with top of the table are the ones that are both. The ones that are capable of doing the technical side and are very relational. And so I guess my unique ability really falls on both sides. On the relational side, I've always had the ability to be able to dig into the heart matters with somebody and get them to open up and share with me what's really bothering them, and I can get to that place with somebody relatively quickly. And on the technical side, I've always been extremely able to be technical, but nobody wants technical. You know, what they want is conceptual. And so what I've been told over and over again is that my unique ability is to be able to take the very complex and make it very simple. So even though it's simple, you have to know everything that's going on, you know, in this area to not be able to mislead or get people into trouble. But by combining those two, I think that that's probably what has carried me through 33 years of top-of-the-table membership.
I just wanted to point out, Guy's been in our profession longer than the rest of us have and has earned 33 top-of-the-table honors. But he's done it all by utilizing simple visual concepts. Scotty, how about you? What's unique about you?
Can we answer that?
Okay.
Will Rogers?
That reminds me of a story. No, I'm kidding. It's not work for me to cheer people on. I have enjoyed doing that since I was little, and everyone needs someone to listen to them. And I'm that person for a lot of people in my hometown, and it isn't work. I get paid really well to do that, and I lead a wonderful life. And, when things aren't going well for someone, I don't have a problem picking up the phone or going to their home and knocking on the door. I love the fact I am pretty good at urging people to do the right thing, and I do that consistently. I'm not terribly competent when it comes to high-tech issues, but I'm good at asking for checks, and I have a sense of urgency, and I know how to motivate people that need to be motivated. I also know when to give a hug. I didn't have to work very hard at this. It was wired in me when I was a little boy, and it's been just thrilling to do this as my life's work.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Mom.
Mickey, we're going to get into our last question.
Sure.
The one that I think is the most fun. Would you tell us how MDRT has impacted your life?
Yeah, we got the rest of the afternoon. I think we've all heard the phrase, if you give someone a fish, they will eat for a day. If you teach them to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. And that is MDRT for me. It wasn't just that MDRT taught me how to do retirement plans. Another member showed me exactly how to do it and helped me sell my very first retirement plan. It wasn't just that. It wasn't just that it was an MDRT member who showed me how to use mutual funds and manage money and set up a fee-based practice. It wasn't just that. It wasn't that these guys up here are my very, very best friends and I can call on for absolutely anything. It wasn't just that. And it wasn't that when I was scared to death and stood on a stage for the very first time that Tony Gordon sat there, spent the whole afternoon with me so that I wouldn't totally die on that stage. Thank you, Tony. It wasn't just that. What it is it's all of it. MDRT changed my life. It changed the way I see myself, the way I act. It changed who I am.
Thanks, Mickey. Scotty, give us a snapshot of how MDRT has helped you.
Success leaves clues. They're all over this auditorium. And in Atlanta in June, it'll be really hard not to go there and walk out or fly away a different person. It's so enlightening to be around people that give big and think big and love big, and they love to see others do well. Ted Williams was probably the greatest baseball hitter, pure hitter, that ever came out of America. And I've read 3 or 4 books about him, and all he wanted to talk about was hitting. He would ask all the great hitters questions. He had a set of questions he asked. We have that in our industry, and if you ask, they'll tell you. They can't keep a secret. Through the years, I've had cups of coffee and meals and 5-minute visits in hotel lobbies asking 1 or 2 questions, and it's so enlightening to be around people that think differently. Winners join organizations and winners go to meetings, and it never goes out of style.
Guy.
Well, the rest of that story, when I went to that first roundtable meeting, one of the reasons that I probably didn't go for a couple of years was because I was still working on my production. And the year I went, I think I'd finished like 4th in the company in total sales. So I was feeling pretty good about myself. And on that last day, if you remember at a roundtable meeting, for those of you that have been, you've got all the seats around. And in this particular auditorium in San Francisco, it was double deck. But I was sitting off on the right, and I sat down, and 2 fellows sat next to me. And one sat on my left, and the other one sat on my right. So I turned to the person on my left, and I started talking to them a little bit, and finally got to the question I really wanted to ask, and that was, how much production did you do? And they'd done 4 times what I'd done. I said, all right, okay, so I moved over here, and I started talking to the one what's the chances that I would be sitting between 2 people that outproduced me? So I started talking to the person on my right, and went through, finally got to the question that I wanted to ask. 6 times greater than my production. And, at that point in time, it made me realize that my particular mindset had been so impacted by the agency I was in and the company I was in that I had put a lid on myself. And that I had not really opened my mind to what was really possible. And so when Mickey says MDRT changed her life, it changed my life. It changed my life in a number of different ways that we don't have time to talk about. But the point is that just going to the round table and meeting people who are successful, and many of them are more successful than we are, is a way to be able to open up the possibilities. And when you open up the possibilities, you can be anything you want to be.
Well, it's time for us to wrap up this session. I hope you all have had a lot of fun. We always have a lot of fun doing this. All of us up here are MDRT members, just like you. We all started out sitting in the seat, way in the back of the room. We all worked our way up by volunteering through the organization and learning skills and how to be a leader and how to become more productive, developing friendships, so that when you have times that are tragic or you go through slumps, you've got friends to call on. We're no different than anybody else in this room. The way we're different, though, is that we chose paths. We decided, all of us, as many of you have, we wanted to be among the best. If you're going to spend your career in this profession, why not be among the best? Because if you are, if you come to where the eagles flock, you will become better. You'll become a better producer, a better spouse, a better father if you have children. You'll become a better volunteer in your community. I think you see all 5 of us are different. We're a reflection of MDRT because we're comprised of so many different types of people from many cultures and many lands. So we would love to thank you all for being so attentive and allowing us to share some time with you. And please thank our panel. I got it.